Good evening, sophomores. Before we start the webinar proper, let us come together in silence for the prayer to be followed by the singing of Philippine National Anthem and SGC hymn. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. Please help us to come together to make this institution reflect your kingdom. Breathe life into our ideas and decisions. Help us build a team that has love and respect at its heart. Give us the strength to continue working for your kingdom in this time of pandemic. Lord, come give us the inspiration to be the best we can be. May we be a shining example of your goodness and truth within, wherever we are. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Pero kung ano ka na sa ngayon, di ko para sa tinada sa ismiday, Jane kung ba siya.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Jane ko, ati, samok si Pusin, kita nagtitingan, masa na inutuan. Siguro mo, i-edit yung tanan, estudyante ni. Ano?
good evening, sophomores. It has been a tough ride for us this past few weeks, right? But nonetheless, we would like to extend our sincerest gratitude to all of you for joining us tonight, despite your busy schedules. By the way, I am Erica Timkang, and with me here is
Jillian Timkang, your moderators for tonight's event entitled
Bank Reconciliation Part 1. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge Mr. Tristan June Esclamado, CPA MBA, the Dean of the Accountancy Department. Good evening, sir.
And to the rest of the departmental instructors, good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir, and happy Teacher's Day to you all.
If you guys are thinking why we are gathering virtually today, it is because we, the fourth-year accountancy students, are tasked to conduct webinars that provide accounting-related topics for the rest of the GPNs.
And it so happened that you, the sophomores, are our target audience. This is also our way of communicating with you guys since we can personally meet at the campus. Thus, we hope to have a healthy conversation with you all as we discuss the topic on bank reconciliation.
Before the discussion proper, may I request everyone to please mute your microphones. Thank you. Without further ado, let's start. Let us all welcome the first speaker for tonight, my co-moderator, Ms. Jillian Timkang. Virtual applause, please.
So, good evening everyone. Once and for all, I am Jillian F. Timkang, a fourth-year BS Accountancy student, Section C. And for tonight, I will going to talk about the different types of bank deposits. So, before we dive into our main topic, which is the bank reconciliation, I would like to introduce to you first the different types of bank deposits, since this is necessary when we try to learn the bank reconciliation. So without further ado, let's start. So what are bank deposits? Bank deposits consist of money placed into banking institutions for safekeeping. So this definition right here is self-explanatory naman. I know na kaibaw na mo ingani since this webinar is only a review gikan sa inyong klase ni Sir Mikong. So, if bisayon, ang bank deposits, mao na sidya ang money or excess nga money sa mga customers sa bank nga ilang deposit sa bank for safekeeping. For example, na sila excess money and dili sila wa pa sila paggamitan. So ila sang ibutang sa bank for safekeeping. So according to our book, authored by Valex Peralta and Valex, kadtong, as you remember, the Intermediate Accounting 1, there are three kinds of bank deposits. So the first kind of bank deposit is the demand deposit. I know this is very familiar to you since I believe na discuss na ning Sir Ninjo. So demand deposit is also called a current account. So it is a basic checking account, and these accounts often allow the account holder to withdraw funds using bank cards, checks, or over-the-counter withdrawal slips. So in a nutshell, demand deposit is mao na sidya ang mga deposits or type of deposit account nga common nga gi-avail sa mga customers. Since from its root word, it's demand, so you can deposit and withdraw your cash anytime at your convenience on demand. So, for example, naa kay expenses, nitawag nimo na kay Shopee Kibale. Say no earlier ganin nitawag. So, wala kay cash on hand, and then padung na ang driver sa inyo. So magdali-dali ka nga to sa bank, for example land bank, and then nakay debit card, insert rato nimo sa ATM machine, then makakuha na bidya ka og kwarta. So sa kana nga situation, nakakuha kag money even without prior notice sa bank nga mokuha ka or mo withdraw ka. So mao nang essence sa demand deposit nga dili na ka makinahanglan og prior notice sa bank para maka-withdraw ka. And also, even if demand deposit has its advantages, for example, it offers convenience, naadjud si Jai trade-off. Since very liquid man ang cash or ang funds nga naadira, so dili jud si Jai ingon nga maka-earn og interest. So that's why demand deposit is non-interest bearing, or sa ubang mga sources, it has little to no interest. So basically, demand deposit offers convenience. You can withdraw and deposit your cash anytime, anywhere at your convenience on demand. Kasabot ra, sunod, the next type of deposit is saving deposit. So in a saving deposit, the depositor is given a passbook upon the initial deposit. And then the passbook is required when making deposits and withdrawals. So withdrawals can be made anytime, but the bank may sometimes require notice of withdrawal. So ang savings deposit, when you open savings deposit from a bank, initial nga, or nag-open dyan mo, tagaan kag passbook, and then ang kanang nga passbook, it contains the date of your transaction and the amount of your transaction. So, kada deposit and withdraw nimo, kinahanglan nga dalhon mo ang passbook, kay mao to siya ang mag-contain sa information sa imong mga deposits and withdrawals. And then, ang withdrawals can be made anytime, but unlike sa demand deposit nga, even without prior notice nga imong ihatag sa bank, there are certain banking institutions nga nanginahanglan sila og notice of withdrawal prior sa imong pag-withdraw sa imong savings deposit account. And also, another difference sa saving deposit from the demand deposit is that it is interest bearing. So, mo na sadya ang main disadvantage sa savings deposit and sa demand deposit. Again, sa demand deposit, on demand, at your convenience, savings deposit na i-passbook, and also it is interest bearing. The third type of demand deposit, the third type of bank deposit is time deposit. So, sa time deposit, it is similar to savings deposit in the sense that it is interest bearing. So, same siya sa savings deposit nga maka-earn ka og interest. It is evidenced by a formal agreement embodied in an instrument called Certificate of Deposit. Sorry sa noise, guys. Kaya di ami sa campus. And then, time deposit may be pre-terminated or withdrawn on demand or after a certain period of time agreed. So, sa time deposit, same siya sa savings deposit in a sense nga it can earn interest. And then, evidence siya og formal agreement stating or the certificate of deposit. Sa time deposit, when you open a time deposit, unlike siya sa savings og demand nga pwede rin mo makuha whenever you need it. Pero if time deposit, let's just say for 3 years, di dyan na nimo siya hilabtan. For a span of 3 years, dili nimo hilabtan, dili ka mo withdraw. Mo na siya ang essence sa time deposit. And then, for example, nagka-emergency ka, and then need jud nimo nga makuha ka from your time deposit, so pwede ka mo withdraw pero nadyo na si J fees, or if ganahan jud ka nga imo na i-withdraw tanan, so imong i-pre-terminate. Mara na siya ang essence sa demand deposit. And also, mas dako ang interest nga imong makuha sa time deposit because your funds are just sitting raman sa bank, dili man siya ingon nga liquid jud, unlike sa demand deposit. So, what is the difference between the demand deposit and the time deposit? So, as I have said earlier, in demand deposit, you can access funds on demand without needing to give the bank prior notice. While sa time deposit, money is locked up for a specified period of time unless you pay a fee. Also, sa demand deposit, it may have monthly maintenance fees, while sa time deposit, it is usually fee-free unless you withdraw funds before maturity. And lastly, demand deposit earns little to no interest, while the time deposit generally earns more interest. So, among the three, di ba I said earlier nga, it is important that we know what are the different types of demand deposit when we study bank reconciliation, because not all types of bank deposits are necessary to have a bank reconciliation. So, di ba, we discussed the demand deposit, the savings deposit, and the time deposit. So, among the three types of bank deposits, the demand deposit is only the type of deposit that is necessary to have a bank reconciliation. So, nga naman, ang demand deposit kay, aside sa liquid siya, there are many transactions jud in a month. Ang ato ramang gong nailhan sa demand deposit, ibali in a dili siya ingon nga large scope customers like individuals ra, pero what if you have a company na and then booming jud imong business, and this for a span of 1 month and daghan kang transactions, daghan kang deposits, daghan kang withdrawals. So necessary nga mag-create ka og bank reconciliation because there are instances nga dili magka-match ang imong book balance ug bank balance. So we will talk about that earlier. So aside sa convenience nga imong makuha sa demand deposit, there are also other importance of the demand deposit. First is it is important in consumer spending. As what I have said, mostly ang mga customers sa demand deposit are individuals. So most especially now nga we are highly dependent na sa technology and even our bills and our transactions are done online. So pwede ra ka mo pay sa imong bills, mo pay sa imong daily expenses online and at your convenience. Kaya di ba I said earlier nga even without prior notice sa bank, maka-withdraw ra man ka. So mas koan jud ka ng helpful jud ang demand deposit when it comes to consumer spending. Another importance of the demand deposit is it is helpful in the bank reserves of the banking institution. So for example, ang usa ka banking institution is daghan sila og customers nga ning avail og demand deposit account. So ang total amount sa demand deposit account is mao na ang bank reserves sa banking institution. So whenever nga daghang mo avail sa demand deposit account, magkadaghan ang bank reserves. So mao na siya ang money sa banking institution or sa bank. And then if ever na excess or the excess reserves, ang excess reserves mao na siya ang gamiton para i-loan sa bank kanto sa laing mga customers. So if ang bank is high og bank reserves, mas positive siya og impact sa ubang customers. And then lastly is the money supply. So the demand deposit is included in the M1 supply or the near money supply. So ang money supply or ang M1 supply consists of the currency and the demand deposits. So ang demand deposit is highly convertible man siya. So mas kanang helpful siya sa currency, helpful siya sa economy sa ka country. Kay for example, if ever na ay financial crisis and then nag-open ng demand deposit account and then nagka-financial crisis, so ang mga customers sa banks ilang i-withdraw og dako ilang withdrawon, and then ang katong i-withdraw nga money mo na puto mo circulate sa economy, thus maka-help siya in helping the stability sa economy. So I hope nga nakasabot mo ingani the importance of the demand deposit. First is consumer spending, second is bank reserves, and third is money supply. So for example, I will give you a situation like na mo a company, like you're so rich na and then na mo a company, and then you task your financial department to create a demand deposit account. So in a month, since your business is booming naman, in a month ang daghana mong transactions. So for example, na certain type of transaction, for example, imong giname sa imong company is company A, and then naakay receivables nga na-collect worth 100,000. So as a company, imo nang i-record sa imong journal or sa imong book account. So mo reflect ang transaction this way. So sa imong journal entry, credit o debit ka cash in bank 100,000, kay ang kaning nga deposit or kaning nga accounts receivable nga imong na-receive from your customer, let's say nga imong gi-deposit sa imong demand deposit account. So debit ka cash, then credit ka accounts receivable. Mao ni ang face sa imong journal entry sa imong company. And then in the face of the bank, kay imo man tong gi-deposit, so ang perspective sa bank, credit sila cash from you, which is 100,000, and then debit sila cash 100,000, and then credit sila company A 100,000 gihapon. So ang kaning gi-credit na company A, this is for illustration ra, pero sa reality, the bank will put in here koan demand deposit account. So as you can see, sa ka transaction na ay record ang company and then na ay record ang bank. So in a sense nga naa nag-debtor o creditor relationship, ang debtor being ang bank as the debtor and the creditor is ang imong company kay the bank owes some amount of money nimo. So basically imo ang gi-deposit ang imong na accounts receivable or ang receivable nimo ngadto sa bank. And then let's say nga naa kay expenses, then na kay ning palit ka og supplies sa lain nga company for your own company. So imong gitask ang bank to pay sa katong supplies. So mao nang mo issue ka og checks, let's say 30,000 worth 30,000. So ang kadtong check nga imong gi-issue, imo tong ihatag sa payee or sa other nga company katong dito kaning palit og supplies. And then ang katong si payee mao didto siya ngadto siya sa bank nga imong gidepositan para magkuha sa, let's say, magkuha sa bayad. So in that sense, imong gisugo si bank nga magbayad sa imong utang. So if ma-happen na nga transaction, ang journal entry nimo is accounts payable 30,000, then credit kag cash. And then sa face or sa perspective sa bank, debit sila company A 30,000 and then credit sila cash 30,000. So when you get the ending balance 100,000 minus 30,000, so naay 70,000 sa book balance here and then naapoy 70,000 sa bank balance. So in that sense, equal ang lang adjusted balances. So wala kay problema ingana kay usaron po ni ka transaction. So what if sa usa ka month ang daghanan ng transaction and then na may ubang instances nga dili jud na siya magka-balance, madyo man kay perfect man kay usaron man ni kan transaction. Pero what if ang tanan nga transactions in a month atong i-consider mao nang mahitabo nga naay mga unadjusted or mahitabo nga unadjusted ang balances when you receive kibali ang bank maghatag mo na sila bank statement or bank report nimo monthly, let's just say at the end of the month. So pag compare and contrast nimo sa bank balance o sa imong book balance, unadjusted or dili siya equal. So that's why you have to create or you have to do the bank reconciliation. So if you're asking unsay mga instances nga nung dili siya mo balance, here we have the examples. So there are items on the depositor's book which do not appear in the bank records as of the same date. For example, sa dire naa ang naka-record sa imong book ang kanang transaction or kanang item pero wa ning appear sa bank records. So unsa may instances nga maingana? Example, checks issued by the depositor are not yet presented for payment to the bank or deposits may have been made after the bank records are sent out to the depositor. Buot pasabot, for example, if naa kay bayro non payable, nag-issue na kag check sa payee, so imo na nang gi-record sa imong book nga ning-issue na kag check. Pero ang payee wa pa ni jagi ngadto sa bank. So dili to mo reflect sa bank kay makahibaw ang bank. So mao nang mahitabo nga naay ning exist na items sa imong book pero wala ning exist sa bank records. Napoy instances nga na ang bank ning issue nag bank records nimo and then mapa kaning deposit. So ang katong imong na deposit dili siya ma record sa bank and na record na nimo sa book. So mo na ang mga one of the or two of the reasons nga nung naay unadjust or naay unequal balances. Then also vice versa, naapoy uban nga naka-record sa bank pero wala naka-record sa imong book. Example, the bank may have charged the depositor's account with service charges which the depositor may not know about until a report is received from the bank. For example, ang bank na sa service charges. So as a bank, kahibaw man sa kung sa mga service charges. So ijo nang i-record. Pero ikaw, makakahibaw nga na yung service charges. So dili na mo reflect sa imong book sa imong book records kay wa makakahibaw. So mao nang instances nga naay mga unequal balances. Also, pwede pog notes endorsed to the bank for collection have been collected by the bank and credited to the depositor's account, but notice of collection is not yet received from the bank by the depositor. So, na kay mga notes nga gi-endorse sa bank, and then kato nga notes is na-collect na sa bank. So, ilan ang gi-record sa ilang account. Pero wa makakahibaw kay wa makanakadawat og notice of collection. So, dili pa to nimo si i-record kay wa makay knowing. So, mao nang maka-create siya og unequal balances. So, when unequal balances exist, there is a need to reconcile the book balance from the bank balance. So now, I will give the floor to Ms. Erica Timkang to discuss to you the definition of the bank reconciliation and its importance. Thank you.
Again, I'm Erica Timkang, and I'm going to define what bank reconciliation is. So first, when we hear the word bank reconciliation, it sounds like it's difficult and it's not fun. But when you do them on a regular basis, you protect yourself from any kind of pitfalls like overdrawing of money and becoming a victim of fraud. Plus, there's something about bank reconciliation, and that is finding balance after all. So now let's define what bank reconciliation is. So, a bank reconciliation is a statement which brings into agreement the cash balance per book and a cash balance per bank. The reconciliation is usually prepared monthly because the bank provides the depositor with the bank statement at the end of every month. So, when you reconcile, pinagtutugma mo yung cash balance per book and then cash balance per bank for the same period and pinpoint every discrepancy. Then, kung na kayo makita ang mga discrepancy, then you make record of it so that you and your accountant will be certain that there's no money missing or gone in your business. So usually, ginagawa to monthly kasi every month binibigay ni bank yung bank statement kay depositor. So, ano ba yung laman ng bank statement? So, first is the cash balance per bank at the beginning. Then, the deposits made by the depositor and acknowledged by the bank. The checks drawn by the depositor and paid by the bank. Then, the daily cash balance per bank during the month. In other words, the bank statement is an extra copy of the depositor's ledger in the records of the bank. So, as what I have said, na pinagtutugma paano? So, through adjustment. So, there are two kind of adjustment like book adjustment then bank adjustment. In a book adjustment, sometimes may na-record tayo sa bank na di na-record sa book. At sa bank, reverse naman doon sa bank adjustment na may na-record tayo sa book na hindi na-record sa bank, kaya naman may adjustment na ginagawa. Kasi magkaiba yung lumalabas na cash balance. So, moving forward to 5 compelling reasons why bank reconciliation matters. So, first is to see the business as it is. So, when you look at your business, when you look at your books, you want to know if they reflect reality. So, if your bank account and your bookkeeping records, wala sila nag-match up, so there's something wrong about it. Kay talig, nag-spend na nimo ang kwarta nga dili gyud ay imo or nag-hold on ka og kwarta nga para dapat invest sa business. So, mao nang dakong tabang ang bank reconciliation so that it can also help you to catch any bank service fees and interest income to make sure ngang imong cash balance is accurate. Next is to track cash flow. So, we all know that managing cash flow is a part of managing any businesses. So, reconciling your bank statements, let's just say nga makita nimo dire ang relationship between when musod ang kwarta sa imong business o sa imong bank account and plan how you collect and spend money accordingly. The next is to detect fraud. So, reconciling your bank statement, dili gyud na sidya kan nga mag-stop sidya og fraud. But, it will let you know kung kanus ani sidya nahitabo. Fourth is to detect bank errors. So, rare jud kaayo nga makuanay error ang bank rare kaayo nga sometimes bank will make a mistake. But kung namo guys posible makahimo drag mistake maunang ang tabang sa bank reconciliation. So if there's a discrepancy between your accounts o sa imong records, so og dili nimo siya ma-explain in other way, maybe it's your time nga kailangan na ka nga to speak kung kinsa tong someone nga naa sa bangko. Then last is to stay on top of accounts receivable. So if you use the accrual system of accounting, you might debit your cash account kung nahuman na ka sa usa ka project. Then ang imong client niingon nga ang iyang cheque is going in the mail today, sugot ra ka account receivable kibalito nimo. Then ang tabang sa bank reconciliation kay when you do your bank reconciliation a month later, makita nimo dito sa imong records nga wala pa ay ang cheque ni abot. So, ang bank reconciliation are like a fail-safe ng imong mga account receivable, dili na siya ma-out of control. And that will be all for my report. So now, we have Ms. Shane Obalias. She will discuss further about the reconciling items which are very important in the conduct of bank reconciliation. Please give her a warm virtual welcome.
Good evening, sophomores. My name is Shane Diobalias, and I will be discussing reconciling items. So, reconciling items are items you need to consider before preparing bank reconciliation. So, we have here first the book reconciling items. So, when we say book reconciling items, these are items that you're going to adjust in your book balance. So, what are these items? So, we have here the credit memos,
webinar ba?
debit
Ibali ang
memos,
mga
and the errors.
fourth year
So, as a common formula, the book balance will be added by the credit memos, then the total, then deducted by the credit memos that I add, then total, then deducted by the debit memos to get the adjusted book balance. So, the question here is, why did we add the credit memos and we deduct the debit memos? So, let's tackle first the credit memos. So, the credit memos are items not representing deposits credited by the bank to the account of the depositor but not yet recorded by the depositor as cash receipts. So, the credit memos have the effect of increasing the bank balance. So, these credit memos are items that kanang appear to your bank statement but wala na record sa imong book. So, mo ni ang kaning credit memos will be the addition to your bank balance. So, sinaka-increase ni siya sa imong cash balance but wala siya na record sa imong book. So, since naka-increase man siya, wala na record sa imong book, imo ni siyang i-add sa imong book balance. That's why credit memos will be added to your book balance. So, what are the typical examples of credit memos? So, these are the notes receivable collected by the bank in favor of the depositor and credited to the account of the depositor. Then, the proceeds of the bank loan credited to the account of the depositor. Then, lastly, the matured time deposits transferred by the bank to the current account of the depositor. So, kaning 3 ka examples, if makita ni ninyo sa usa ka transaction, mo ni siya ang imong i-add sa imong book balance. Next is the debit memos. So, these debit memos are items representing checks paid by the bank which are charged or debited by the bank to the account of the depositor but not yet recorded by the depositor as cash disbursement. So, these debit memos have the effect of increasing the bank balance. So, kaning sa debit memos, ang imong bank account gi-charge sa bank but you're not aware with it. So, sa pag-record nimo sa book, imo si siyang i-record as a deduction. That's why debit memos will be deducted from your book balance. So, what are these typical examples of debit memos? So, first is the NSF or no sufficient fund checks or DAF or drawn against insufficient funds. So, these checks deposited deposited but returned by the bank because of insufficiency of fund. So, like for example, you receive a check from your client. So, ikaw nga nakadawat sa cheque, imo si Janggi kanang gi-considered as payment. So, imo na si Janggi butang sa imong collection. So, na-increase ang imong cash balance. So, sa imo na si Janggi deposit. But, ang bank, ilang i-check if kung naabay enough money to make payments to you. Ang tawag ani ni dya is clearing. So, the bank will check if there's enough money to make payments nimo nga ikaw ang giutangan. So, if makita sa bank nga wala kanang not enough or insufficient ijang kanang account so dili ma-complete ang payment. So, dili ma-transfer ang money. So, in effect, nga ikaw nga naglista na daan sa collection, kinahanglan nimong i-deduct nga kay wa may payment nga nahitabo. So, ang NSF check will be deducted to your book balance. So, the second is the technically defective checks. So, these are checks deposited but returned by the bank because of technical defects such as the absence of signature or counter signature. So, walay perma ang cheque. So, di na siya dawaton sa bank. Then, erasures not countersigned. So, na mga erasure kay namanggoy bank nga dili jud mo dawat og mga cheque nga na erasure bisan pa og countersign na siya. Kay naay possibility nga naay unauthorized person nga nag-change sa amount. Next is the mutilated check. So, kani mga cheque nga wala na mao ang porma or naguba na nga cheque. Then, lastly is the conflict between the amount in words and amount in figures. So, kanang kuan ni siya, dapat pareha ga jud. Like kanang ag imong amount 2,000 in words, in figures po dapat 2,000 jud. Next is the bank service charges. So, it includes the bank charges for interest, collection, checkbook, and penalty. Then, last is the reduction of loan. This pertains to amount deducted from the current account of depositor in payment for loan which the depositor owes to the bank and which has already matured. So, mo ang mga amount nga gideduct sa bank sa imong account for the payment for your loan. So, mo to ang typical example sa debit memos, the NSF checks, the technically defective checks, the bank service charges, and the reduction of loan. So, next is the bank reconciling items. So, ang bank reconciling items are items that are added and deducted to your book balance but not yet adjusted to your bank balance. So, what are these items? So, these are the deposits in transit, the outstanding checks, and the errors. So, as a common formula, the bank balance will be added by the deposit in transit, then the total, then less the outstanding check to get the adjusted bank balance. So, let's tackle first the deposits in transit. So, these are the collections already recorded by the depositor as cash receipts but not yet reflected on the bank statement. So, giapilan nimo sa imong collection sa book but wala pa siya ni-appear sa imong bank kay wala pa siya gi-forward adto sa bank kay kanang like for example cash on hand pa siya awaiting for deposit or kanang naa na siya sa bank but wala pa na-update ang record nimo sa bank. So this deposit in transit includes the collections already forwarded to the bank for deposit but too late to appear in the bank statement. So like what I said earlier nga mao ni ang mga collection nga gi-forward na sa bank but wala pa gi-update ang imong record adto sa bank. Second is the undeposited collections or those still in the hands of the depositor. In effect, these are cash on hand awaiting delivery the bank for deposit. So, mao pa giingon ganina nga mao ni ang wala pa gi-forward sa bank like cash on hand pa siya awaiting for deposit. Next is the outstanding checks. So, these are the checks already recorded by the depositor as cash disbursement but not yet reflected on the bank statement. So, mao ni ang mga release na nga cheque but wala pa na present adto sa bank. So, these outstanding checks include the checks drawn and already given to the payees but not yet presented for payment. So mo nang giyon ganina nga gi-release na ang cheque adto sa payee but ang payee wala pa giadto, wala pa niya gi-present ang cheque adto sa bank for payment. Next is the certified check. So these are one where the bank has stamped on its face the word accepted or certified, indicating sufficiency of fund. So actually this certified checks is not part of the outstanding check anymore. But dire apila ni siya kay padungman siya sa bank but ang kaning mga cheque it has already been stamped or certified, meaning gididaka na siya sa bank. And these certified checks are deducted to your outstanding checks because they are no longer outstanding for bank reconciliation purposes. So for the book errors and bank errors, so there's no uniform treatment if we add it or deduct it. Kay it only depends on the transaction. Kay if the transaction would require you to add it, you will add it, and if the transaction would require you to deduct it, you will deduct it. So in conclusion, as a recap, the book reconciling items includes the credit memos, the debit memos, and the errors. And as a common formula, the book balance will be added by the credit memos and deducted by the debit memos to get the adjusted book balance. Then for the bank reconciling items, it includes the deposits in transit, the outstanding checks, and the errors. So as a common formula, the bank balance will be added by the deposit in transit, then deducted by the outstanding checks.
Thank you, Shane. So, okay na mo dira, guys. Gutom na mo. So, before we move on to our second part, magduwa sa ta. So, mag-icebreaker ta, and then we prepared questions for you to answer. So, related na po siya sa among na-discuss ganina. So, for every correct answer, you will receive a 50 pesos worth of load.
So, kani nga itong kuan is paunahay ni siya. So, you can type your answers on the chat box, but answers will be only accepted after sa among go signal. So, mag-chat me o go after ingad to inig sa mong question. Pag mo chat me o go, kung kinsay una nga mo answer ingad to, after sa go, then mauto siya madaog.
Nakuha ra ang instruction. Pa-like be.
So, thumbs up,
Virtual.
like.
Thumbs up if nakuha ang instruction. So, naay mo chat sa chat box nga body number 22 ang name. And then, mo chat si Jag Go. And then, after may si Jag Go, mo pa mo type sa inyong answers.
Okay
So,
na?
okay.
So, question number 1. So, NSF check should appear in which section of the bank reconciliation? So, NSF check should appear in which section of the bank reconciliation? So, A, addition to the balance per books. B, deduction from the balance per books. C, addition to the balance per book. Or D, deduction from the balance per book. Go.
So, the answer is letter B, deduction from the balance per books. Congrats to Benji Cyril Oka. You may claim your prize. Oha. Sorry. You may claim your prize after the webinar. For the next question, true or false? So, sa Juno siya. I will read the question twice, ha? True or false? A bank reconciliation is one of the main ways to prevent fraud and embezzlement of company funds. Again, ganahan mig complete answer ha, dili ra T og F. So it's either true or false. Again, a bank reconciliation is one of the main ways to prevent fraud and embezzlement of company funds. Go. So the answer is true. Congrats to
Mariel.
Mariel Kadwar. Had
Had
one.
one.
Sorry.
Mario had one. Congratulations. So, here's the question number 3. Question number 3. Among the 3 kinds of bank deposits, a bank reconciliation is necessary only for A. Saving deposit, B. Time deposit, C. Demand deposit, or D. Deposit in transit. Among the 3 kinds of bank deposits, a bank reconciliation is necessary only for letter A. Saving deposit, B. Time deposit, C. Demand deposit, or letter D. Deposit in transit. Go.
The answer is letter C.
Demand deposit. Congratulations to Jana Grace Abrantes. So, congratulations to the winners. So, you may claim your prizes after sa atong webinar.
So, proceed na ta, shall we? For the second part of our webinar, we will now discuss the methods in conducting the bank reconciliation. But for tonight, we will focus only on the adjusted balance method since the rest of the methods will be discussed during the part of the webinar by a different groups.
So, now let us all welcome the speakers, Ms. Maria Lususuban, Ms. Joyce Tulibas, and Ms. Miriam Tumon. A round virtual applause, please.
Hello, good evening. Once again, I am Maria Lususuban, the fourth speaker for tonight's webinar. Moving forward to our discussion, wherein I will discuss the forms of bank reconciliation, focusing to adjusted balance method. There are 3 forms of bank reconciliation: the adjusted balance method, the book-to-bank method, and bank-to-book method. In adjusted balance method, the book balance and the bank balance are brought to a correct cash balance that must appear on the balance sheet. For book-to-bank method, the book balance is reconciled with the bank balance, or the book balance is adjusted to equal the bank balance. Whereas to bank-to-book method, the bank balance is reconciled with the book balance, or the bank balance is adjusted to equal the book balance. Among these 3 methods, the adjusted balance method is the most commonly used one. It's because the process is much simpler than the other methods, wherein the computation or the process starts from the closing balance from the previous period, your unadjusted balance, down to your adjusted balances. Again, why do we need to adjust these balances? Since the balances for the book and bank are not the same or not equal. And in order to get the correct or exact amount of your cash balances, you need to recall or remember what are those reconciling items that must be added or deducted from your book and bank balances. Next, now we have here the pro forma reconciliation. Why pro forma? Since it follows the complete and proper format of how to solve the correct cash balances. Just keep in mind that the credit memos are always added to the book balance, while debit memos are always deducted from the book balance. And it is also observable that deposits in transit are always added to the bank balance, whereas the outstanding checks are always deducted from the bank balance. As you remember, credit memos have already been recorded or credited by the bank to the depositor's account. So bank balance has increased, but for the books part, no effect since credit memos are not yet been recorded by the depositor. Thus, we can say that book balance is understated. And as for the debit memos, these items are already been recorded, debited to the depositor's account by the bank, so bank balance has decreased, making the book balance overstated. For the deposits in transit, the bank balance is understated since there is increase in the book balance. And for the outstanding checks, the bank balance is overstated as there is decrease in the book balance. And for the last part of my topic, which is the treatment for errors, there is no definite rule whether they are to be added or deducted. Just take note that whenever the bank balance in the cash book is higher than the bank statement balance due to an error, these errors will be credited. And if the cash book shows less bank balance compared to the bank statement balance, these errors will be debited. And that's all for my part. Thank you.
So hello everyone. Once again, I'm Joyce Lopez Libas and I am tasked to discuss the adjusted balance method. So for this part, we'll just focus on pag-prepare sa adjusted balance method, which I will present later. But before anything else, first, dapat you are already familiarized with the reconciling items. And not just familiarized, kundi dapat nasabot na ninyo kung kaning reconciling item, i-deduct ba ni siya or i-add sa book or sa bank side. That way, you'll be able to present your bank reconciliation statement and reconcile it properly. Now, let's proceed to our problem. Here we have Sensible Company provided the following ledger account of the cash in bank maintained with Second Bank. As you can see, this is the record of the company or the depositor's ledger. It contains the date and the date of deposit, then date again sa check and check number and the corresponding amount. Then the following bank statement was received from the Second Bank by the Sensible Company. So it also contains the date, checks, withdrawal, deposits, and balance. So ang first one mo tong sa ledger or company records, while ang kaning sa ubos mo nakibali ang bank statement. Other information. Number 1, Sensible Company reconciled its bank balance on November 30 with 2 checks. So, na 2 checks, number 768 for 10,000 pesos and number 770 for 20,000 pesos outstanding. So, obviously, this is an outstanding check, a bank reconciling item, and are deducted from the bank balance. So, naman po, makita po ninyo sa screen, nga nanan ako'y nagibutan kung unsa ni sila nga mga reconciling item kay para ikaw dya, inig-prepare na nato sa bank reconciliation, mas dali na laman nato ni si dya inig-compute. So, number 2, check number 1042 was drawn by Sensitive Company. The bank charged it in error to the account of Sensible Company. So, this is a bank error. Pero before ko explain nga nung bank error si dya, I should discuss to you first kung unsa yung errors. Because kay kasagaran dito dirita maglibog kung unsa ang errors i-add ba ni siya or i-deduct ba ni siya. So, ang errors are mistake made by the company or sa bank. So, dapat sabton jud mo kung kinsa naka-commit sa error and kung unsa nga klase nga error. And then, ang errors can be added or subtracted. Depende sa situation and if it results to overstatement or understatement. So, overstated gani means too much is being reported or sobra ra ang na-record. While understated means too little is being reported or kuwang. When it comes to error, either ni book or ni bank, kung ang result ka ni media is overstatement or sobra, then imo si diyang kuhaan. And if it results to understatement, then imo si diyang dugangan. Then back to why this is a bank error. Bank error ning statement number 2 kay nasadyop ani si bank kay bali nalipat si bank ni sensible ni sensitive company. Ay dapat untang kuhaan ni bank ang account ni sensitive company since si Jaban ang nag-withdraw. But then ang nahitabo gikuhaan ni bank og 8,000 pesos ang account ni sensible company nga di unta dapat. So ang error results to understated bank balance kay nakuhaan man ang account ni sensible company. Thus nag-require ni og adjustment which is moad og 8,000. And always take note nga kung kinsa na ako met sa error, si Japod ang mo correct. So sa kani kay bank man ang nasa joke, so si Japod ang mo correct sa balance. So no need na si mag-record og error ngadto sa book. Hopefully nasabtan ninyo joke nga nung bank error ang number 2. So proceed ta sa number 3. Check number 776 was correctly drawn for 52,000 pesos in payment of account. The amount of 25,000 pesos was entered in the books of original entry. Kani pud si Ja book error ni si Ja kay bali ang nasadyok na pud niini ang company or ang entity. So si Ja rapod ang mo correct. Kay bali may bayad ta, may pagawas ta og check worth 52,000 para for our payables, ibayad sa atong payables. Pero ang na-record ra ni entity kay 25,000. Mong understated ang disbursement, unya overstated pod ang cash kay wrong man pagka-record. So mong need nimo magdeduct og 27,000 sa book. Para mas masabtan, sa 52,000 nga gibayran, 25,000 ra ang na-record. So, na difference nga 27,000. Kay bale, mag-minus pa ka og 27,000 aron ma-correct ang record nimo. Kay sa book nga record, maingon nga 25,000 ra ang nagasto instead nga 52,000. So, maong i-deduct nimo si just sa book kay misobra or overstated ang cash kay nahimutang na gamay ra kay bale ang nabayad. So, number 4, the bank credits on December 28 represents the proceeds of a 50,000 pesos note less a collection fee of 5,000 pesos collected by the bank and credited to the account. So this is a note collected by bank which is a credit memo. So i-minus siya ni si Ja. Kay bale 50,000 minus 5,000. So, equals 45,000. Mo nakibali ni ang imong i-add ngadto sa book. And, ang katong 5,000, mo to imong service charge kay bali. Which is a debit memo. So, i-minus po din mo si Jang ngadto sa book. Actually, kining amount nga 45,000 kay makita ni nimo ngadto sa bank statement. And, naasad note sa kilid ni ini kani dire nga part sa ubos dire na note dito daan nga CM or credit memo same po sa service charge. So last but not the least, number 5, the NSF check was received from a customer in payment of account. Of course, this is a no sufficient fund check or NSF, a debit memo which is a book reconciling item. So ang NSF check na nag-amount of 10,000 will be deducted ngadto sa book. So, now, we are required to prepare a bank reconciliation on December 31 and its adjusting entries. So, in an adjusted balance, sa adjusted balance method, ma-observe nato na ang credit memos are always added to the book balance, and ang debit memos are always deducted in the book balance pod. And while ang katong deposits in transit are always added po si Ja in the bank balance, and ang outstanding checks are always deducted in the bank balance. So dapat mo niyang hinumduman in preparing a adjusted balance method. So before ta mag-prepare sa adjusted balance method, na ako'y i-copy dire kaning first nga table o second table. Actually, given na ni siya sa kuan sa problem. So para murag reference na naman nato para maghimo sa bank reconciliation. So makita ninyo sa right side sa screen, mao na kibali ni ang forma sa adjusted balance method of Sensible Company on December 31. First, para makuha nato ang unadjusted kaning balance per book, mo refer ta sa ledgers company or sa company's sa company's record kani diri sa book sa kani first table. So i-add ang tanan deposit. So we get a total of 280,000 nga deposit. And imo pod i-add tanan pod ang amount sa check. So natay total nga 170,000. So i-minus ra nimong duha ang deposit og ang total deposit og ang total nga checks. So 280,000 minus 170,000 is equal to 110,000. So kaning 110,000 mo nakibali ni ang imong unadjusted balance sa imong book. Then mag-add na ta sa credit memo nato, which is ang note collected by bank. This was mentioned in number 4 nga statement. So ato tan-awon ang bank statement kung napabaywa na record ni depositor. So naay 45,000 nawa pa na record. So i-add ni siya sa atong book. Then we get a total of 155,000 pesos. Less the service charge, which is a debit memo. So na-mention po ni sa number 4. Actually, naka-reflect na ni siya sa bank statement, pero wala pa ni na-record ni depositor sa book. So kay disbursement man ni ang service charge, so ato ni siya i-deduct sa book. Then napod tay i-deduct nga NSF check nga 10,000. Naka-reflect pod ni siya sa atong bank statement. And same ra ni siya sa service charge. This is also a debit memo. I-deduct gihapon ni siya sa book kay disbursement pod ni. Okay bali ning na mention sa number 5. Next, i-deduct ang book error nga 27,000 kay it results to overstatement of cash man siya. So mao ni akong gi-explain ganiha. Kay nahimutang na mas gamay ra ang kibali na gasto. So dapat i-deduct ni siya sa book para makakuha taw sa correct na cash balance. So after sa mga deductions, humana tayo sa deductions nato, we can now get our adjusted book balance nga 113,000 pesos. So humana ta sa atong adjusted book balance. Now diri na punta sa atong balance per book sa atong adjusted bank balance. First, we need to get the unadjusted bank balance or balance per bank. Kaning sa bank statement, kaninang naka-bold siya, starting from 120,000 paubos. Starting from 180,000 paubos. Kibali, kuan man ni siya, wa man ni given sa sa problem. So what I did, ako ni siya kani 130,000 nga beginning balance, ako gi minus sa 10,000 nga withdrawal, so get a 120,000 balance. Then minus sa puta 20,000 nga withdrawal, we get 100,000. Minus the pod withdrawal 5,000, we get 95,000. Minus sa pod 35,000, add na po tag deposit nga 30,000, we get 90,000. Then minus 15,000 plus 40,000 atay 115,000. Then minus na po 52,000. And natay 63,000. Then minus na po 8,000 plus 50,000 deposits. Then we get a 105,000 nga balance. Then minus na po withdrawal 10,000 plus 45,000 nga deposit. Nantay 140,000 na balance. And minus na po 5,000, we get a 135,000 na balance. So, ang kaning final item diri sa bank statement, mao na kibali ni imong unadjusted bank balance. So, mag-add na ta og deposit in transit na amounting 60,000. So, kaning 60,000 na record na ni siya sa book kani diri sa December 31. Pero wa pa ni na-acknowledge ni bank or wa pa ni ning reflect sa bank statement. So, i-add din nato siya sa atong bank. Then, mag-add na po ta og bank error nga 8,000. Kani mistake ni sa bank. So, nga nag-result sa understated nga bank balance kay nakuhaan man to ang account ni Sensible Company as what I explained a while ago. So, i-add this siya, we get a total of 203,000 less na punta sa atong outstanding checks. So, ato i-trace atong checks na wa pa ni appear sa bank statement para makahibaw ta if there are checks na not yet presented for payment. Kaning check number 770, kaning 20,000, actually na-mention ni sa katong number 1 na statement. And then kaning check number 775, 30,000, actually na-record na ni siya sa book kani. O ang kaning check number 777 nga 48,000, same ra ni wa po ni siya na reflect sa bank statement. So, i-deduct ni nato siya. Then makuha ni nato ang atong adjusted bank balance nga 113,000 pesos. So dapat sa adjusted balance method, ang adjusted na book balance o adjusted na bank balance must be equal para makakonclude ka nga ang imong bank reconciliation was properly reconciled. Also through this, let you match the balances between sa imong book nga record og sa bank. So hopefully nga naamoy na-refresh mo and naamoy nasabtan about sa pag-prepare sa adjusted balance method. So mo ni end sa akong discussion, and thank you everyone.
Evening, JPians. Okay pa ba mo diha mo ra maggutom na no? Diba? I'm sorry for that. Nice try. Okay. I am the last reporter and my name is Miriam Tumon, BSA, Section B. Okay. So, the last part of this report or this topic, bank reconciliation part 1, is to discuss to you guys the preparation of adjusting entries. Okay. When we talk about the adjusting entries in bank reconciliation, only the book balances requires adjusting entry, and the depositor will record it to this book. Wait, okay, here. So, as you can see, we have here the adjusting entries. Klaro ra ba? Okay. So, why is it very important to record adjusting entries to our book balance of the depositor? The adjustments are necessary to bring the cash in bank balance to its correct balance for the presentation purposes or statement presentation purposes. So to get this started, as what Miss Joyce Toliba's example, this is the adjusting entries of Miss Joyce Toliba's example. So our book reconciling items are the following. We have here the Let me visualize it to you guys. Okay, we have the book reconciling items. The first is the credit memo, which is the note collected by the bank or note collection by bank. And then we also have the debit memos, which are the service charge, NSF checks, and book errors. So these are the following reconciling items that we must have or we must make adjusting entries. Alright, so the first reconciling or book reconciling item is the credit memo, which is the note collected by the bank. Since this is a credit memo and it's been discussed by Ms. Shane Hubayas, that it is an additional to our book balance. Okay, so we are to debit here cash in bank with an amount of, with an amount of 45,000 pesos, and also record service charge of 5,000 pesos. And we will credit notes received. Okay, so we are to debit here cash in bank with an amount of, with an amount of 45,000 pesos, and also record service charge of 5,000 pesos. And we will credit notes receivables of 50,000 pesos. Why? Okay, sabot mo ko mga tanong mo ana. So why did we debit cash in bank and service charge? Here, this is a note collection and it is being deposited directly to the bank. Therefore, it is a large amount, kay 50,000 kaha. So the bank will automatically charge you with a certain amount. Okay, there's no free service. Kay they're keeping our money safe, so there's a charge for this. So kung ang atong deposited cash sa bank is mo exceed na sa ilang limit nga na free from charge, therefore mo charge sila with a certain percentage. Okay, so mo ni ang service charge nga gihatag nga gikuha sa bank, which is ang 5,000, 10% sa 50,000 pesos. Okay, another is, why did we credit notes receivable for 50,000 pesos? Again, we credit notes receivables because it is being deposited directly to our bank account, pero wala pa ni nato na record sa atong book. Okay, so we are going to record it to our book balance in order to reconcile the accounts, kasi mao ni ang atong purpose there. And then no more other credit memos. So okay, we have the I forgot the to record. This is to record note or record collection of note I'm sorry, and fees by bank. So mo na siya ang atong adjusting entry. So the second one is we have the service charge. So this service charge is considered as debit memo. So based sa atong reporter po ganina nga si Shane again, why should we, siguro makapangutan na mo nga nung mag-record tag utro og service charge nga na namatay service charge diri sa ibabaw, diba? Siguro na inangutan niya. It's because i-record ni nato si Ja kay wala patay na record nga deduction sa atong cash in bank. So we need to acknowledge this in order to have an accurate cash balances. All right, so we record debit 5,000 service charge, and also we credit cash in bank, which is 5,000 pesos also. So na ay deduction since this is considered also as a disbursement to the part of the depositor. Okay, so to record bank fees charged by banks. Okay, mo na siya ang atong entry sa service charge.
Service bank.
The next
Service
one,
charge
or the third one, is the NSF check reconciling item or book reconciling item. Actually guys, wala tay account nga NSF check. Okay, so we do not really have this account. These are actually customers' checks that bounced that customer still owes us money. So we are going to debit accounts receivable with 10,000. By the way, basig naglibog mo bisan anin gikan ha. Dito ni sa problem ni Joyce nga percentage sa katong mas una na nga nag-report. Okay, so ang atong NSF dito is amounted to 10,000. So we are going to record it accounts receivable kay kuantam na siya. Customer still owes us money. So napay bayaran. Okay, so we are making sure that we are going to debit their account. Okay, so again, we are also to credit cash in bank since this is the disbursement too. This is a deduction to our cash in bank. Okay, so okay ra ba? So we are to record customers NSF check. Remember ha kay wa malagi tay NSF check nga account. Okay, so the last book reconciling item here is the book error. So this book error here, ato ni siya based dito sa problems, it is an underpayment or under-recording payment. So this kind of under-recording payment is mas consider na nato siya as accounts payable. Okay? So this is a payable again because this is underpayment but not been recorded, so we are going to reduce our accounts receivable by debiting the amount, and since this is a disbursement to the part of the depositor, then we are to reduce also the cash in bank with the same amount. So accounts payable debit 27,000, which is mo nang sa problem dito ang additional problem ni Joyce, and then we also have to debit the cash in bank of 27,000 pesos. So to records accounts payable. Okay, so I have nakoy usad diri nga last part, which is this age included. Kani tanan, please go guys og remember kani nga adjusting entries sa haway. Kay sa katapusan, ingani ato ni si Jang, we're gonna go ahead and post it to post our journal entries to the general ledgers for cash. Okay, magsuwat-suwat ko diri ha, pasag di lamang ko. Okay. Kintahay na ani atong general cash char. Para to make this last part kuan ba kanang more interactive. Okay. Mo kitahin ning atong cash general ledger. Okay? So ang katong atong mga adjustments dito ganina, so based dito sa beginning book balance nga gi-present dito ni Joyce, we have 110,000. I'm sorry for the cute zeros. Okay. And we have sa atong adjusting entries is naatay additional to our book balance, which is ang 45,000 pesos kadtong atong sa man to? Ang atong note collection. Okay? So we are going to add, I'm sorry about that. And then there's a deduction also based sa atong adjusting entries, which is including po diri ang 5,000 ang service charge. Okay. Wow, ka-cute sa 5. Okay. I'm sorry, sige. Just to make this last part interactive, charot. Oh, we also have the 10,000, which is ang kantong atong NSF check ba ni? Oh, okay. Yeah, NSF check that bounced. It's the customer's check that bounced. And also we have our 27,000. Okay. So, get your calculator guys and guess og pila ni ang kaana ni. Pwede mo comment ni Joe, and then og kinsay maka first og comment sa answer, I will give 50 pesos loads. Ako ra kaugaling ni kaugalingong money. Okay, so first please kog screenshot miss og pilay balance, pilay ending ani. Pila ang correct balance sa ubos. Sige. Please kog ingon og naanay mo ka correct sa answer. Go, char. 50 pesos load pang online class. Okay na ba? May nag-answer, wa. Sayang ang 50 pesos load, guys. Kisay naka-first na ning answer. Nakakita kong na ning answer. Kisay ning answer. Kisay naka-correct sa answer, Joyce. Please. 100. Okay, ako i-reveal ang answer. It's 130,000 pesos. Congratulations, Miss Jessel. Jessel? Jesho? Desho, I'm sorry. Okay, congrats. Okay, you can be amazed. Pwede na po dito sa seniors nga to nga GC. Or pwede through sa inyong mayor. Diyan ako na ang mukan. Okay? So that's the end of our bank reconciliation part 1 nga. Mag-discuss.
Thank you. So now we will proceed to our icebreaker. So same ra gihapon si Ja.
So, same ra si Ja, pero this time, usa na naman ka question ang among ihatag. Since kay Baumi, ang uban, gigutom na gajud or talagang uban na ni hapon na karon. So, mao nang usa na lang ka question ang among ikuan. So here's the question.
So in preparing its May 31, 2012 bank reconciliation, CAT company has the following information available. Balance per bank statement, 35,000. Deposits in transit, 5,400. Outstanding checks, 4,900. A note collected by bank in May, 1,250. So the correct balance of cash at May 31, 2012 is A, 40,400, B, 35,500, C, 34,250, or D, 36,750. Again, in preparing its May 31, 2012 bank reconciliation, Scott Company has the following information available. Balance per bank statement, 35,000. Deposits in transit, 5,400. Outstanding checks, 4,900. A note collected by bank in May, 1,250. So the correct balance of cash at May 31, 2012 is A, 40,400, B, 35,500, C, 34,250, or D, 36,750. Go! Yaha, get us answer.
Nanay lamang.
So, the answer is D, 35,500. Congratulations to Renato Jesoram. Jesoram. And now we will proceed to the open forum. So as you remember sa registration form, na may gihatag na question nga unsay injong ika-pangutana namo. So right now we will answer a few questions from it. So we would also like to address your questions nga ning pop up ra during the webinar. So if you have questions pa, please chat sa chat box so we can read and address it. So first question is, katong gikan ni sa registration form ha, naay nangutana og tips kuno to reconcile much easier. So, naay nangutana tips to reconcile much easier. So this will be answered by Miss Miriam Tumon.
Char. Ako jud.
Yeah, ikaw.
Why me? Ako jud ilang itod. Okay. So, tips to reconcile much easier. First is, you must consider the information and the documentation. These are the essential or necessary information or documentation that you must have in hand. Okay? So, kung naana kay gani, you will know if there are missing pieces in your heart. Charge. So, there are missing pieces. Sure ba ni na ay missing pieces or na ay mga missing nga accounts. So, makaibaw ka, mas nakay ka ng better overview kung naay kuwang. So, the second one is don't forget the till. So, this till is considered at the counter or cash registered where the money is kept. So, it is very important to the company's finances also. So, if they're not taken into the account, the bank reconciliation will be more difficult. So it is a good idea to carry out a regular bank reconciliation or a regular triple reconciliation using the actual cash, a book balance, and the accounting balance. That way you can reduce the chance of mistake occurring. Okay, so the third one is to reconcile in section. It is a good idea to begin the bank reconciliation by checking the closing balances from the previous month, or if necessary, katupang mas una pa. So, pinaagyan na, this is useful in case a transaction had been accounted for at the prior date at when the previous tally was reached. So, mas makita ni mo kanang na disan or naba ditoy kanang disan ni nagikan or nga na. Okay, so it will be more visible to you. Makaibaw ka maka-trace ka with problem. So number 4, or another tip for me, is to analyze discrepancy. Kung may nga discrepancy, the lack of compatibility. So it is very often a problem with the bank reconciliation is the result to typical errors. Kung may nga typical errors, example ingani is making an entry or makahimo tag entry twice. So it will make a discrepancy to the amount. Kay madobli man na to. And another one is we have the di na to, not accounting for a transaction. So di na to take into account ang a certain transaction. So it will automatically make a discrepancy to the overlooked entry. And then the third one is making a mistake when entering a comma. Kani usa jud nimo ning problem na binagmagamit taog Excel mo bisan na karon, di ba? So entering a comma, this will, or for example bisag papel ra kanang 0 imbes 10,000 mahimo na tong kanang 100,000 inga na. So this will make a discretion or discrepancy to the digits. And the last one is entering a figure with digits or wrong order. So imbes imbes 59 mahimong 95 inga na mabaylo ba. So inga na, so we should before kanang magkuantag time nga ato ibut kanang mag-check pa ta by item sa account, we should bear this in mind para makahibaw na ta o maka-avoid ta sa error. So the last one for me is to share is the most important thing to consider in bank reconciliation is that you must know the basic. Mo jud na ang pinaka-kay kung once kahibaw ka sa normal balance sa mga affected account, you will know how to debit or credit. That's it, guys. Mo na ako na-realize kung kahibaw ka o unsa ang maapektuhan nga accounts also, o kahibaw ka kano sa sidya makuhaan, ma-debit o ma-credit na manay normal balances, posible usa ni sidya dako jud ni tabang para makahimo ka sa bank reconciliation nga mas easy para nimo. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
So the second question, benefits of bank reconciliation, that will be answered by Ms. Joyce Tulibas.
So ako ning i-generalize naman. So ang benefit sa reconciliation is first, matrack nimo ang flow sa imong cash kay bali kahibaw ka through reconciliation, makahibaw ka kung asa padong imong kwarta or unsay nagawas or unsay nasod kay bali. Then ma-compare nimo kung naay error na commit, so ma-match nimo, so ma-check nimo kung nabay error sa book or sa bank. That way, what it means, kanang mas ma-update ka kung unsay dapat i-correct na kung nga asa nga sa book ba or sa bank ba. So nara sa duha. Then if kanang sa businesses, most importantly kani yung bank recon kay essential jud ni siya sa mga businesses kay like example it can detect nga unsay mga discrepancies or fraud sa inyong company. So as kung ma-check ninyo through bank reconciliation, so makahibaw mo kung like your employee tahay nga na kung nasa dyan gibuhat nga anomalya or something nga na kung nasa gibuhat, so matrack nimo nga kani si dyan kuha si jag kuan ingani wa ni gi-record jud tarong sa injong book or sa bank pod kibale murag motay kibale murag kuan injo kung unsay buhaton like internal problem si ja so pwede mo maka kanang namoy mga rules or unsay injong dapat ang ibuhaton para ma-address to siya nga problem kay kasagaran ra ba ingana kanang nay mga kuan kung di ka labi di ka kahibaw mo detect kung unsay mga nahitabo sa injong kuan labi na about financial then mo jud ni kasagaran nga sa businesses nga mo fail jud siya so mong important ang bank reconciliation so that's it
So kung wala na, mas
So,
So thank you for your questions. We hope nga bisan gamay na amoy na learn og nalingaw mo, bisan pagkasabot mi nga gipanggutom na gajud kasagara nato, pati pud may gigutom na mi. So katong mga winners, we will reach you after the webinar para ma-claim ang inyong mga prizes.
and also, after nga nga webinar or tomorrow na laman, we will message you for a short quiz through Google Form na laman pod. And since gabi na makaadyo, ugma na laman, and deadline will be tomorrow ra pod.
Okay. Thank you so much guys sa inyong time. This has been Eric Katimkang
And Jillian Timkang,
signing off. Thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Cheesy niggas out my circle like a pizza. I'm way too exclusive. I don't shop on this boutiques all the Still talking cash shit. Pussy like water, I'm a mother and relaxing. I would never trip on a nigga if I had.
Thank you.